Here's an interesting question from Reddit. What is the difference between just writing a female character and a character who has being female as a big part of her personality? This is the stuff I thought of from things I heard years back that some dude on DeviantArt was bashing on Red Sonja and going about how great Casca was. Basic idea is that plenty of female characters were just men with boobs and or eye candy. And realistic, practical, and serious look aside, characters like Casca, Ellen Ripley, and Furiosa had being a woman as part of their character, and for the later two it was something to do with being motherly somehow, and I think for the first it had to do with being a woman in a mostly male action-oriented world, and something to do with her actually having a period that endangered her life mid-battle. Ooh, I don't know about that. I do know that Ellen Ripley, in the first Alien movie, it was written as gender ambiguous. It could have been anyone. But in the second Alien movie, and I believe even in the third, her femininity does play an important role, especially her motherly instincts. So, you know, it's an interesting example. But I'll tell you why you think that a lot of women are quote-unquote men with boobs, especially in video games and in some TV shows as well. You see, the way things used to work is that I would have wanted to sell a product. I would put my human energy, my labor, and I would produce something that I would want you guys to buy it. So how would I go around doing that? Well, I would look at the target demographic. I would take some people that are smart and they have done economics and marketing and they know the demographic, and they would ask me, V, who do you want to appeal to? And I would be like, everybody. And they would be, V, no, that is a Marxist brainlet take. Only a moron would think like that. You need to pick a demographic. And I would be like, okay, teenage boys, and they would be excellent. Teenage boys, they like two things. They like action, and they like boobies. Give them that, V. Give them that, and they will buy your product. They will come to you, and they will say, give us more, V. Give us DLC. Give us t-shirts. Give us everything you have. Just give us boobies and violence. And that's how Mortal Kombat was made, by the way. And it's a good thing to sell your product because people work to create the product and they want to maintain their jobs. People don't like getting fired. When the product doesn't sell, well, then they get fired. And then, you know, you have other questions like, what other demographics can you appeal to? Teenage girls. Okay, well, if you want to appeal to teenage girls, talk about pop culture. Go into some celebrity gossip and then write about that. Point-and-click adventure games used to be a thing. That's what, If you want a more adult-oriented audience, you want a movie for the family to see, well, now you need a more complex storyline in order to depict your women, because adults have spent a lot of time around women. They know how women are, so you need to have, like, these more complex characters. You can't really have the James Bond villain that is in the island and he's planning to take over the world. No, like real villains are at the World Economic Forum and they do politics and they're friendly with world leaders and they're not trying to create the doom laser. They're writing books and influencing world leaders. So you need to have more complex characters that are more realistic. You know, a teenager can believe that the James Bond villain is on an island because a teenager doesn't really understand how the world works. But a more mature person requires a more mature understanding. Okay, so that is how it used to be. Yeah, nowadays it's about representation, okay? Like video games are like the parliament, they're like the heart, the throbbing heart of democracy. Nothing is more pivotal and more important in the world than video games and comic books, okay? Like the Marxists who have failed to get a job at CNN, they have got jobs at either video gaming companies or video gaming websites that talk about video games and do reviews. And these Marxists are very frustrated with their place in the world. Like they wanted to aspire to something greater. They wanted to become something more. But unfortunately, they were limited. They were stunted in their professional growth. So now they use video games as a way to improve society. You see, they can't improve society by being in positions of power, so what they can do is like they can make a game that has representation in order to improve the life of the people that are in the ghetto or in the trailer. You know, a woman in the trailer can be very happy that now female space marines exist. Her life is not going to improve, but she is now being represented into the Astartes. That's how the mindset of a Marxist functions. And I say Marxist here in order to know what we're talking about. It doesn't really fit the definition, but it kind of gets you with the mind towards the inclined people with the social justice aspects that, you know, we're talking about. And when you have representation, when a company, like a game developer, is told, all right, you need to have representation. And the game developer is writing a story, I don't know, about Call of Duty, which takes place in World War II. He's inspiring from historical events. He takes inspiration from some fictional movies about the war, but like, there's no women to be found there. But at the end of the day, what you're asking him to do is to flip a checkbox. You're asking him to just have a woman there. So now it doesn't really make sense, but the woman is there, right? Because that is the checkbox that had to be filled. In other words, it's a reskin. It's a reskin. It's not a complex character. It doesn't serve any purpose. It doesn't have any femininity or anything like that. It's just a reskin. It's there in order to please the corporate overlords. Doesn't make sense from a story point of view. Doesn't make sense from a financial point of view. The only thing that it makes sense is that it pleases the video game journalists and the corporate executives. So, in contrast, games that actually do make women with the core essence, like the fact that they're a woman is part of the character and you can't have a reskin, those games are more interesting. For example, Bayonetta, all right? Like, Bayonetta is a game that appeals to teenagers. It's violence and boobies. You cannot switch Bayonetta with a man because it wouldn't make sense. Another game, I would say Tomb Raider, the first one, the remake, the first reboot of Tomb Raider. It makes sense for her to be a woman because there are multiple scenes that focus on her femininity. The fact that the social justice activists despised, you know, the scene where other men are trying to rape her, but she manages to overcome that and she fights her aggressor, and it's a very interesting moment because that is the first time she takes another life, and then she feels all those emotions, and it humanizes her and makes you empathetic with the character. That is a great writing. That is an excellent thing, which is why the remake of the first Tomb Raider was so popular. The second one was shit. Like, in the second one, you can literally replace Lara Croft with any male hero, with Sam Fisher if you want, or with Agent 47, and the game literally plays the same. You wouldn't notice any difference. And that is bad writing. That is why the number 2 and number 3 of that trilogy didn't manage to appeal as much. So yes, like games that actually do focus on having a female character that is either feminine or uses its womanhood in a way that makes sense within the universe, that makes sense in the story, those games sell. And they are good. The other ones are just checkboxes, which is like, okay, well, we need to have a woman there because then the game journalists would like this game more. I mean, you look at the Oscars, and in the Oscars, they're now going to completely discredit movies that do not have representation. So you're going to see more bland corporate movies being made that the story is there, like the writer wants to tell a story, but like he's going to have to add these characters in order to fit some checkbox, and the story is not created around those characters. It's just like a story that's, well, genderless bullshit, you know, a story where any type of race can be cast and they look at the checkbox so that they fill the roles, and it's meh. Notice that Korea isn't doing that, which is why South Korean movies are becoming very popular, like Squid Games. Notice that China isn't doing that. I wouldn't be surprised if in the future we're going to see some good Chinese movies that are going to dominate the market. Manga isn't doing this, because at the end of the day, You know, you can push something, you can change something by force, but you can't get people to like it. As the saying goes, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.